Your stomach gets too good.
Good morning, everybody. It is Social Surge with Fly. And oops, nope, not Fly today. Fly is not able to join us. We're going live on the gram. I have a special co-host today, Ian Stroud. Is it Stroud or Stroud?
Stroud.
Stroud. Oh, what the heck? You were right. He was telling me it's Stroud. I was like, I think it's Stroud. He's like, no, Stroud. I'm like, okay, fine.
No, you're fine. They used to announce that when, at the high school football games, they'd be like, "I'm Stroud." And like, yeah, that guy doesn't exist.
Oh, okay. So our last name is Regalado, right? My son's name is Gabriel. Why did they call him Gabrielle? And then they jacked our last name up so bad. I was in the stands and I literally screamed, Regalado! And then all of a sudden you hear Gabriel Regalado. I was like, thank you. How was that?
They fixed it. There you go. So they know. Yeah. They just don't care. Unbelievable.
Good morning, Scott, for joining us over on the gram, and Beth, you're joining us here. I have special guest Ian Stroud with me today, and Ian, we played a special sea shanty. We made a special sea shanty just for you. If you guys want that, we could probably throw it up on. We need to make a Spotify list of like all of the music that we make for all of our special guests that come on the show. And unfortunately, Fly was unable to join us today. However, she was like, why don't you talk to Ian? And I was like, okay, I've never met Ian. I've never had a conversation with Ian. James Milner joining us over on the gram. Good morning. Special guest today is Ian Stroud, and we are talking about him being the accidental. Oh, there we go. My internet went out for just a second. I don't know if anybody else caught that glitch. Good morning, Holly Pennington over on the gram. And so, Ian, there's a lot of stuff that I want to talk about with you because a lot of what you're doing is absolutely fabulous over on LinkedIn. But I have to say, and I told you I was gonna say this before we came on air. I wasn't gonna tell you, or I should say, before we started the show. Your LinkedIn profile absolutely 100% impresses the crap out. I almost said another word. Impresses the crap out of me. And here's why. You have the perfect mix of market intel and insight along with your personality. It is just, I was scrolling through, I was reading your posts because like I see your stuff, like, you know how LinkedIn is. You see people's stuff and you like it and you read it. But going through the actual profile itself, I have to tell you, just like the absolute perfect mix of everything that's on there that I'm telling clients that they should be doing. And I think so many people get stuck in their heads of like, oh, I shouldn't post this. I shouldn't put this personal thing on here. I love the story of your daughter being late to school. It was freaking hilarious. Like, but this is the point of social media, right? Like I think so many people get caught up thinking, oh, I can't show my personality. Or in your case, you're dealing with, $1 billion investments and you're not afraid to be on here, kind of poking fun at yourself, poking fun at the industry. And I just love it. So total fangirl, which it doesn't happen often. I should tell you, it doesn't happen often. So good let me ask you, before you got started in brokerage, or first of all, let's let you introduce yourself to our audience.
All right. I'm Ian Stroud. I'm a multifamily investment sales broker out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. And Adam, let's go. And I was formerly at SVN. Now I'm at Verde Commercial Real Estate. We are, I should say, 99% multifamily only. We have taken on. We have a retail listing right now, so it's a little weird, but 99% multifamily only. And then my background is in investment management, which is kind of weird, but I started and I thought I had dreams of Gordon Gekko and Jordan Belfort, I guess. And so I was a finance major in college, finance and philosophy major in college, which that's the reaction I get most of the time. My first boss always forgot that I was a finance major. He only thought I was a philosophy major. I don't know why he hired me. Whatever. But I went from finance and systems and and the data and all the kind of craziness, the 100,000 row spreadsheets that you get out of, equities and stuff like that. Managed a fixed income portfolio of about 50 million, and then an equity portfolio of about 100 million, 150 million maybe. And that was fun. It was good. But I got to the point that I wanted to get to, the thing that I thought I wanted to do when I was in college. And I was bored. I couldn't handle it. I was, literally in a back corner of a back room, not talking to anybody all day. And I didn't realize that I needed to do that. I didn't realize that I wanted to do that. Honestly, most of my life, most of my childhood, I was told that I was an introvert. Turns out that's not at all true. And so I remember taking a test in college or whatever, and it said that I was an extrovert, and I was like, no, that's whatever. But then when it actually came to it, and I wasn't talking to people all day, because when you're in school, you're interacting all the time, and it doesn't really make a difference what you are. But when I got to it, and I was in a back room, and I was kind of isolated, I hated it. I couldn't stand it. I would come home and actually fall asleep on the floor of my living room in my suit. My wife has pictures of me doing it, and I was just exhausted. But really not because I was doing any kind of physical labor or anything like that, just because I was gassed every day from doing something that I shouldn't be doing. And so I kind of fell backwards into brokerage. I had a non-compete with the wealth management firm that I left. And I thought, you know what? Give real estate a shot, see how it goes. And I liked it a lot. So I kept at it. I don't know if I would not say that I'm there yet or anything like that, but things are going better for sure. The bank account doesn't look quite as miserable, and things are looking up, especially with the social media and everything going well. Clients starting to the flywheel's starting to turn. So things are good.
How has your social media, since we are, we talk about social media all the time on the show and best practices, how has your social media affected how you connect with prospects and clients?
At first it didn't really make much of a difference at first, as you probably tell your clients all the time. It took me probably about 18 months for it to really start to pick up. And when it started to pick up, I hit about 2,500 followers or so. Mm-hmm. And then that took me about 18 months. And then I closed the gap from about 2,500 followers to 5,000 or so over the course of the next 12. Mm-hmm. So I more than doubled my following in a whole lot less than it took me to get there in the first place. And so now, I hit 5,000 in like February or something like that. And I'm already almost most of the way to 6,000. And so it's going well. But in terms of how it's affecting my, prospecting and everything like that, it's been helpful. Number one, something that you don't really think about is that when you're on social media and you're kind of putting your ideas out there, especially the way I do it, which is kind of, you go off half cocked and see what happens. Let
me interrupt you really quick, but it's real. That's the thing. When I'm reading what you're posting and then now I'm hearing you talk, it's one and the same, right? There's not a disconnect that's happening in my brain. And maybe that's just the ADHD brain that happens with, but there's not a disconnect in here of meeting you and hearing you and then reading what your content is.
Yeah. I hate AI writing, and I can pick it out pretty easily. So I assume that other people can pick it out pretty easily. So I do use AI to like sharpen my ideas and kind of help maybe structure and stuff like that. But I never let it write for me. So yeah, I mean, the way that I like to do it is kind of throw out an idea and into something like Claude or something like that, and let it sharpen it kind of with structure. I have a whole project that I've given it pretty tight instructions and things like that. But I can't remember where I was going with what
I knocked you off course.
Okay, fine. Where I was going with it is one of the cool things that you don't really think about with social media, and especially putting out ideas that you think are pretty good, but you're not quite sure, is that it doesn't just run through your own filter and maybe a mentor that you have. It runs through everybody's filter that's out there.
Right.
And so, when I'm putting something out there and then Bob Knackle comments on it and he's like, "This is great." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, I'm on the right track."
It's funny. People ask me all the time. They're like, "Is that you or is that Bob?" I'm like, "No, that's Bob. Bob is the one that's commenting. He's the one that's on there." I'm even surprised when I see stuff. I'm like, "Oh, okay. Bob's commenting. Good, good.
There you go.
That's what needs to happen." So it's always interesting to see how certain content hits. And you have a story about we were actually trying to find it before we went on air. You have a story about being in the hospital room with your wife making cold calls. Tell us about that.
Oh, it was not fun. Yeah, it was terrible. No, so what year was that? Was that 24? I want to say. So 2024 in September, my wife on a Saturday, whatever Saturday it was, but on a Saturday was kind of complaining about her feet, and her feet felt weird, and she just whatever, and we didn't really think about it. Fine. So Sunday we go to dinner with my parents. We're hanging out, and at the end of the night we're driving home, and she says, like, "My feet are numb. My hands feel weird and my feet are numb, and this is weird."
Yeah.
But again, we didn't really think about it. We didn't, have much to. What do you do? Your feet are numb. That's weird, but maybe you're cold. I don't know. So then the next morning she woke up and she couldn't walk to get the baby who was crying. So baby's crying. She wakes up normally to just go feed the baby. Could get there, but was stumbling, was not on balance at all. Like her whole foot up to, I think she said her shin or something like that, was numb. Could not do anything. So that morning, drop my oldest off at school, get out to do whatever we need to do that morning. And then I drove her to the emergency room, and they admitted her, and she stayed there for 8 days.
Oh my God.
So it turns out, we didn't know this at the time. It took us 5 days, I think, to figure it out, or no, 4 days to figure it out. And she kept getting worse, but she had Guillain-Barré syndrome, and apparently a very strange variant of it. Whatever that means, but it was a variant that was really aggressive. And so what that actually meant was, over the course of the 4 days that we were there without any idea of what was going on, she went from the stumbling to completely unable to walk, functionally paralyzed. So she, when she was trying to grab something from me, her arm would be, she could not take her water bottle, for example. She has one of those big, like, Stanley cups,
Yeah.
standard.
Yeah.
But she couldn't take it from me. Like, when I would hand it to her, it would hit her hand, and she just couldn't, she couldn't get it. Fortunately, that right about the end of the 4th day, we got a second opinion, and the guy was like, "We're pretty sure it's this." And so we got, treatment, and almost immediately, when treatment began, she started getting better.
Wow.
She went in 3 days, 4 days. She went from being functionally paralyzed to walking herself out of the hospital.
Wow.
It was insane. I mean, I remember pulling the car up, and she walked out alone to get into the car. It was wild. So during that time, at this point, I was very new to brokerage. I hadn't even had a year in. And I have a baby who is, I think at the time, 6 months old or somewhere around there. So, I can't stop working. I don't have an option to stop working. So there was a 30-inch-ish kind of rolling desk that they had in the hospital, and I stole it, and I was using it on my laptop, making calls, bothering my wife constantly with them. And just trying to drum up some business, and it's a little romantic to think about it now, but at the time it was the worst thing ever.
So tell me about the post that you wrote about this. Fly said, did it go viral for you?
So I had two that went pretty big. So one, I had been posting every day, and I didn't want to stop that. So she goes to the hospital on Monday morning, and I didn't say anything about it then. I didn't say anything about it Tuesday, but Wednesday it was bad. So I posted something that just basically said, I think the first line was, my bad things happen. My wife's in the hospital. And all it was just really like, I need prayers for my wife. She's not doing well. This isn't a business post. It's just bad. And I mean, I was scared out of my mind.
Right.
So I was trying not to, turn it into a thing,
Yeah.
Like
Here's what it taught me about business.
Yeah, because it didn't teach me anything. I was just scared. But I posted that, and then went back to work and whatever. But I checked it later that night, and it was up to about 150,000 impressions. And I was like, oh my God. And over the next 2 days, I think it hit almost 375,000 or something like that impressions. Somewhere in the neighborhood of like 2,500 likes, like 50 reposts or something like that, some insane number. And it brought some weirdos out, man. I got some DMs that were absolutely off the wall.
Right. And that's the challenge with a lot of people. I know when Fly and I talk to prospects and clients, Beth over on the gram says, praise God, that's amazing. So when you were talking about your wife's story about being able to walk out of the hospital.
Yeah, thank you.
But one of the interesting things is that people don't look at the other side of going viral on something. They don't see what happens when your DMs get flooded and your comments get flooded. And then all of a sudden, all of this like fringe part of the internet decides that they're going to opine on something. And
it was the weirdest thing.
And it's very strange. And some of it is actually really, really disturbing. And you get some, you just never know. So it's like when clients say to me, I want to go viral. And I'm like, I don't think you think it means what you think it means. Right. Like,
yeah, because I think for the people that already knew me a bit, it was a connecting moment and it was good. But some people I didn't, you got 50 reposts. So this is going out to networks that are not even remotely related to what I do, or clients that I want to be in front of. I got a DM, and it was from some woman, and she said, I can't remember exactly how it was, but she said, I assume she got the shot. And I was like, what? And she said, as you know, the nanobots from the shot can infect your entire nervous system. And you have to take this product that I'm selling, as it turns out, to help it. And I was like, so your little supplement's going to help the nanobots that's killing my wife? All right.
A note to all of our friendly marketers out there that are listening and watching this show: don't ever do that. That is never, ever, ever, ever do that.
It was
just as bad as when like your high school buddy pops into your DMs on Facebook and was like, hey friend, I've got a new thing. I was like, no,
I'm working at Northwestern Mutual.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, so let's talk about the multifamily launch system. From what I understand, is it's an end-to-end marketing system designed to engineer bidding wars.
Yeah,
talk me through that. You designed it. What is the blueprint?
So I'm pulling it up here so I don't say the wrong thing about my own system. But so basically what it was is it is a systemized way of doing brokerage. And I built this before I got to Verdi, and it turns out that Verdi, did the same process, and we kind of work the same way. But we kind of work the same way. But all it was is I was trying to take everything that I'd learned about brokerage and turn it into a structured, repeatable system that would make it so that instead of kind of shooting from the hip every time and turning it from kind of I'm putting this poorly, but you know how it can look, right? When, a broker gets a listing, they argue about the price, they say, I definitely have buyers. So I wanted to take that kind of uncertainty and the lack of clarity and turn it into a systemized, repeatable process that looked the same pretty much every time. I mean, there's going to be differences between every property, obviously, but for the most part, every listing launches the same way. And if you treat it as if it's a product launch, like a grand opening on your store, instead of a listing, which I think when you look at like residential agents and stuff like that, the listing process is often a little bit more filled with fanfare than when we do residential or when we do commercial stuff. And so I liked that a lot, the kind of the Ryan Serhant kind of deal, where he'll spend tens of thousands of dollars on these marketing videos and these well, obviously he has the Netflix shows and everything like that, but to push a property that he has from just a property and turn it into something that's kind of mythic and kind of story like, because people don't respond to things, they respond to stories. Yep. Which kind of that kind of philosophy drives my entire LinkedIn thesis, which is people respond to stories.
Yes.
So the whole goal of the launch system is to turn a property into a story. And if you can take that and you can kind of turn it into this thing that people respond to, you get more offers, you get more exposure, and you end up typically selling at better price and better terms because people have bought into it. And that's not to say, I think a lot of people here turn it into a story and they might think, lie. You don't do that, because any kind of smart investor, which there's a lot of them out there, any kind of smart investor would see, even though it's a good story, they'll get the T12 and they'll say, that's a bullshit story. you're lying.
And you've lost credibility 100% if that's what you're putting out there.
Right.
And your credibility is gone because you have told a BS story. Just real quick, this is a horrible segue into something, and we'll go out of it, I promise. But have you ever watched History of the World Part 1? It's a Mel Brooks film. You probably have never seen it. It is a very old film. But Mel Brooks walks up and he goes, they ask him, what are you? And he says, I'm a philosopher. And she says, and it's B. Arthur. And she goes, you're a bullshit artist. and he's like, no, I'm a philosopher. And she said, bullshit.
What's the difference?
But here's the point that I'm making is that you are absolutely 100% correct when you're talking about stories sell. So if you think about history and you think about everything that's gone through, obviously our history comes, whatever history you believe in, because we got flat earthers out there. So I'm just saying, whatever history you believe in, we pass that down through stories, whether it's even in our own homes, the stories that we tell our children about how we met, about different challenges in our lives. DB, you just saw it last month. Did you see History of the World Part 1 or History of the World Part 2? I actually haven't watched Part 2. Anyway, so we tell stories and stories stick. There is a book called, I've mentioned it many times, Made to Stick. And it is about the sticky stories that actually stick, like when Post-it notes were created, right? Like, or you talk about the way that it's actually part of the book. Airline, they're super cheap. Southwest.
Spirit? Oh, yeah.
Southwest. So like how Southwest like always like kept like they're the low cost leader or whatever. not so much anymore. But the point being is that when we have a story that people can identify with and that can actually they can grab onto, it is going to stick with them. And that story is going to last so much longer than you just giving out point blank data about something, right? Because there's something that they can actually I don't know if it's the what they put in as their emotion that goes along with it, but it is something that will actually stick in their brain.
Right.
So you reiterating that storytelling is a massive part of not just what you do on your LinkedIn profile, but also what you do in your marketing is massive. And there's a difference in storytelling to tell the actual story and storytelling to be a bullshitter. And so I think a lot of people forget what that very fine line is. And you can tell the story of a property and not build it up so much that it becomes a lie.
Right. And which is huge because especially, we're salesmen, at heart, right? And
Right.
so when you're selling a property and we have for example, we have a 12 unit property that we're going to be bringing to market here in Indianapolis over the next couple of weeks. And that property has a pretty good story. It's a cool property, and it's in a rougher part of town, but the part of town has a story. The property itself has a story. The ownership has a story. The sale to the owner has a story. Like there's a lot of things that, and they're all true, right? They're not, you're not embellishing anything. You might embellish some things like, it's an up and coming area instead of it's a garbage town. But no, I mean, like if you can take what which that's part of my whole thing is that I do really, really rigorous data gathering to know my market as okay. The story there is that when I knew I was getting into brokerage, I had about 3 months left at my current job. I had to, take the test and whatever. And so I had about 3 months before I actually would start my job to kind of get acquainted with the whole thing. So one of the first people I came in contact with, one of the first people I heard about was Bob Knackel. And this was like right around the time. I think I started following him on, Twitter and LinkedIn and whatever. And maybe like 2 weeks later was when the whole JLL thing happened. So, I've been watching this guy and he's, mastered his market. He's talking about these crazy stats. He's got his, Knackle nuggets and the deal stories and things like that he's going through. And you can tell, number one, he just kind of wrote it off the cuff, which was cool. But when he's writing it off the cuff, you can also see that the guy has so many numbers in his head constantly. So he's telling a cool story, but he also knows what he's talking about so completely that he was able to weave numbers into the story so easily that it made sense. And it didn't sound like reading a table, right? In an Excel sheet or whatever. And that kind of shaped my view on how to use the data to tell the story, because my whole background is data-based. Everything we did in equities and fixed income were massive spreadsheets, right? And I never got onto the client side of things, so I never had to learn how to tell that story. But I did once I got into brokerage. And so, that my first impression of it was from Bob Knackel. And that was kind of where what builds the whole launch system is a really, really huge foundation of data. And it's kind of impossible to get around that. You have to know your story. You have to know the components of your story before you can write it.
What I loved about what you said about that is you treat it like a product launch and not like a listing. And if you've never been involved with a product launch, then you have no idea what that means. But there's a lot of background. There's a lot of back end stuff that has to be done before that product actually gets launched. And that is including knowing what the story is. Why is this story important to the end user? How are we going to grab their attention? Is it going to warm the cockles of their heart, right? Like, so it's all that stuff of like, how are we going to bring you into our story so that you want to be invested? I think Nike used to do a beautiful job of doing this. One of the biggest brands in the world, right? But why did they get people involved, and why did they get people interested in them? It wasn't the shoe. It wasn't that. It was the story. It was the stuff that they got people invested in. And we used to see that a lot more. I don't think we see it so much with, I don't know necessarily if there's brand loyalty. So talking about it from a marketing perspective. But 80s, 90s, we had the soda wars, right? Or the pop wars, wherever you're at in the world, where it was Coke and Pepsi, or you had Nike and Reebok, or you had, Levi's and I don't know, Jordache.
I don't know.
Yeah, right. Like you identified as this brand because they spoke to you. And that has been lost, I believe, particularly if you don't study marketing, if you haven't studied sales. Highly recommend that lots of people, I'll have to bring it up later. I can't think of the name of the book. When I started in sales, that I read that really impacted about how I thought about talking to people and how I could get them to get invested in the story, right? And he was a sales guy. I did sales when like we listened to shit on tapes, okay? Like we listened to everything on tapes. So I'm a sales girl at heart, so I totally get it. And one of the best things that I was ever told for that is that people are not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get rejected, whatever happens, the cold call goes bad, they're not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves, and don't take it personal. And I think for a lot of people, and this isn't just in brokerage, this is just in sales and in marketing, they get so caught up in the fact that, well, they didn't call me back. They're not thinking about you. You were the furthest thing from their mind. So that being said, how do you stay top of mind when it comes to clients and prospects?
Ugh. It's tough. That's actually something that we've been building at Verdi. So part of the launch system, obviously, to get there, you have to get a client, right? And so one of the things that I did not do well at all with when I was first in brokerage was the following up. So one of the things that I didn't do well at all with was the following up and the staying in touch. And I was bad at that. I was good at putting, stuff out on LinkedIn, and especially with my brother kicking my ass every day, I'd put stuff out on LinkedIn all the time. But I didn't have any kind of system. I was working off an Excel spreadsheet and everything. And I didn't have any kind of system put in place to remind me like, oh, call, Steve again. It's not just you've called him once. That's it. It's, you need to stay in touch. Now, I have a couple systems that help me, but I built my own CRM kind of thing using Notion, and that generates, because I can't remember anything like that off easily. So I built myself a system that kind of loops tasks over and over again, so that I every day have my own call list that I don't have to build. It's there for me, because if I don't have that, then I'll do something else. I don't know what I'll do, but
right.
I'll go spend 10 hours on LinkedIn and it won't be productive. So I just built myself kind of I guess you could call it a second brain. I think that term is probably overused today, but literally I tried to just take everything that was in my brain and put it out there so that I didn't have to remember it, because I wouldn't have in the first place. So now what I do is I have a couple different things. So I have a newsletter that I run on LinkedIn. I have, which I'm working on getting that off of LinkedIn. And then I have LinkedIn, and I'm trying to expand on flies, gun to my head, into X
Yes.
and things like that. But then I have the systematic call lists that come in. And so what it does right now is it measures okay, let me back up. It does a couple things. The first thing it does is it has people on a cadence, right?
Mhm.
So the people that I think are going to be transacting within the next 12 to 18 months are kind of in my top level cadence, which is every 30 days.
Beautiful.
The people that you're less sure of, maybe you haven't qualified as much, maybe you haven't, you being me, haven't qualified as much and haven't talked to as much, or maybe you're not sure like where they are, or maybe they've told you, F you, man, I'm never going to sell. They get on my lower tier cadence, which is quarterly. And that has worked pretty well. I got that from the Massimo group.
Yep,
I
absolutely.
took their CRE. I think it was CRE start or CRE launch or something like that. And that was super helpful. So props to them. Kind of the A tier, B tier type of thing. And then something I got from C. John Armstead actually is his I think he called it circle prospecting, which I hadn't heard before. I don't know if that's a thing, or maybe he made it up. I don't know. But for anybody that's cold, he circles through them. I think he has a cadence of like calling them every single day for about a week. And then it gives them a little gap of about a week. And so then he calls them weekly for maybe 6 weeks or so. And then they kind of move up into the B tier just naturally.
Right.
So that was pretty cool. So that kind of gave me a framework for people that I hadn't talked to. But up until that point, I didn't really have a framework for truly cold calls of people that I'd never talked to before. And so that was super helpful. So that, long answer to, I have to have things on a loop.
No, and so if you don't systematize things get left out, right?
Oh yeah.
And when you work in brokerage, that prospecting, that cold calling, and that following up on those warm leads is important. But if there's no system urging you to do that, how are you going to get it done? Especially if you've got 25 billion different things on your plate, and you're a father, and you're a husband, and you're probably involved in your community, and it's all these plates that you're juggling or spinning, right? The spinning plates. And then the one thing that brings you money is sitting there going, hi, like, do you remember me? Like, I exist. Are you ever going to put me in play? So I think it's brilliant that you've taken something you've created that second brain that reminds you, hey, we have this list. Let's start rotating through this list. Bob Knackle talks about that when he makes his calls and his connections. So he talks about his connections. At one time, I think he said he was up to 150 connections a week during COVID. And he has a list of prospects, and he goes through that list and he calls them. And then and then every, there's a, like you said, there's a monthly, there's a quarterly, there's, a yearly, there's a list that he follows through, that he goes through and connects. And so he's always making those connections. But if you do not have a system in place, now that being said, I know Bob has his list on like paper, like it's like, it's on a legal pad. But I mean, that's the thing, is being able to put it into a digital play is so important. How hard was it for you to learn Notion or to put all of that stuff together? Like how many, and so to be honest, like let's, because a lot of people are going to hear this and be like, oh, I'm going to go invest in Notion. I'm going to go do all this stuff. It's like, you got to learn. Like, how many hours do you think that you put into that to make it work?
So people ask,
damn it, Mo.
I talked with Jake Crandall a couple weeks back about that. I think I had to add it up. I think I probably spent between 300 and 400 hours, putting it all together, which was too much. It was a lot of very, very late nights that my wife got mad at me for keeping her up. But I knew I needed something, and I'd tried a couple things, and there was one program in particular that was really great at prospecting, but what it wasn't great at that I needed because of the way I work was just the place that I could put my thoughts and have them stored there and not lose them.
Right.
And so I needed to build that myself. So it took me, I mean, it took me a while, even with the help of AI. So there's a Claude plugin that you can get into Notion. And so it was able to read, my databases completely and everything like that and help me structure it. But even with that, it took me a long time because one of the things it can't do, which it probably could now with some of the, crazy AI stuff that's out. But one of the things it couldn't do, at least at the time, was it couldn't build its own automations.
Mm.
So any of the tasks that I wanted to come in at a certain point on a certain schedule, I had to learn how to build that myself. So fortunately, the Notion language is pretty similar to the Excel language. And so if you're really good at Excel, which I got really good at Excel when I was in finance, when you get really good at Excel, the it's like learning Spanish when you already know Italian or something like that.
Right.
It was close enough that it was not a big jump in Notion. Mostly the problem that I ran into is that I didn't know some of the, and anybody that's in software probably does know this kind of thing, but how to build data silos and things like that and have them talk to each other. So what I have now is it 9 databases? 9 databases that are all interconnected, all talking to each other. There's a properties database, a context database, an interactions database. There's an ideas database, which is just for me to brain dump into. There's a tasks database, all this stuff. And they're all connected, which I don't think is a crazy idea for anybody that's built software. But most of the stuff out there right now for commercial real estate was so kind of retrofitted for us that
Mm-hmm.
it didn't really do, I used HubSpot and it was fine, but unless you're spending a lot of money with HubSpot, I wasn't able to get it to build the properties database with the connected ownership entities and contacts entities in a way that made any sense to me. So I built it.
Yeah.
It took forever.
Right. So I mean, but that's a thing. It's like we hear all these. I mean, because what you're saying that you put together was specifically based on, this is what I need. There is nothing out there that does this. I'm going to build it. And we can do that now with Claude Code. There's so much stuff that's available out there. But if you get too in the weeds, right, there goes your business. There goes everything that you've done, because now instead of being a broker, you're a programmer. And I've had conversations where I've literally very boldly asked the person in this particular case, are you a podcaster or are you a broker? And it kind of made them kind of sit back. And I'm like, okay, because what I'm hearing, you're telling me about this podcast that you're so invested in, and you haven't told me jack shit about your business. So are you a podcaster or are you a broker? And so I think sometimes we get so excited about all these tools and stuff like that that we forget what our actual line of business is. What I love about your story, though, is the fact that you saw that there was a need, that there was something that wasn't there, and so you created it and you took the time to create it, and now you have something that gives you a second brain that helps you follow up so that you aren't leaving all those cold calls behind, and eventually it will bring money into you, and that's so, honestly, that's kind of one of the smartest things that anybody could do.
Yeah.
Last but not, we're running a little long, but last but not least, let's talk about your brother Colin, and let's talk about competition, collaboration, or chaos. What is it?
We talk a lot. Back when we both first started in LinkedIn, he started maybe a year or two before I did, maybe a year, I'm not sure. but he started well before I did. And I wasn't interested in doing anything LinkedIn or anything like that. And he got me into it. And, obviously he's killing it. I don't even know what he's at right now. He's at 35,000 followers or something like that. So he got shouted out by Sean Ward a while back. If you ever need your credit card points handled, go to Colin.
Yeah.
I mean, he's insane. He's unbelievably good at it. He was doing what he's doing now when we were in high school. He got us a trip to Rome, round trip. Each ticket was like $300. And he got us. So he and I went to Rome with two friends of ours. When I think I was 18 and he was, 16 or something like that. And, it was insane. It was
Shout
amazing.
out to your parents for letting you like gallivant across the world.
Yeah. Yeah. They were cool. Yeah. Now at that point, he had already been to an immersion program in Spain for like 6 weeks. So this was not his first time abroad. It was mine. And so that was, it was insane. It was crazy, but he kept that up. And so he got unbelievably good at it. But then when he started going on LinkedIn, he kind of accidentally fell into the thing we were talking about earlier, which is the story thing. I have to assume that was something to do with the way we were brought up. But I don't know. We were homeschooled. We were weird. I don't know. We did something strange, but, so he got going and he went from 2,000 followers when I first started in brokerage to what he's at now. I mean, he's at 37,000 followers. And he did that over the course of about 3 years, maybe 4, maybe. And it was unbelievable. So back when I started, I was texting him every day, asking him 1,000 questions about, different stuff. Now that I've gotten the hang of it, we don't talk about LinkedIn so much anymore. Actually, our most recent conversation was about AI and Claude Cowork, and he's starting to set things up. He's sending me and my dad stuff about he built a website with I think it was either Base 44 or Lovable or something like that, and he was just going nuts about it. And I take credit for getting him into that because he refused to do it for a long time. And then he finally did. So, yeah. But now we don't talk about LinkedIn as much just because I don't have as many questions. My audience is substantially smaller than his, which is something I'm just going to have to come to terms with, that he's got, everybody that owns a credit card, and I have Indiana.
Well, but that we do talk about this, and there's a question from James Milner over on the gram that I want to get to, but this is something that I would rather have a client that has 1,000 rabid fans that are absolutely 100% invested in them and what they're doing than an account that has 100,000 people that follow it and not one buyer. Right. Yeah. So it's all about knowing who your target audience is, knowing the conversation that you're having with them, the stories that you're sharing and telling that are going to grab their attention, then having a huge number of people that are never going to transact with me. Mm-hmm. And LinkedIn's kind of a weird thing because I talk about marketing a lot. So I get a lot of marketers who follow me, but obviously my target market is commercial real estate brokers, right? So I have to make sure that when I create content that I'm actually putting that keyword in there so that it signals to the system that, yes, this is marketing advice, but it is also specifically for a target audience, because marketers are not going to transact with me. They're just not. However, a commercial real estate broker will. So it's just knowing like what kind of content to put out and then having fun. I think one of the things that I noticed about your content is that you genuinely seem to have fun with it. And so many people do not have fun with their content. It's like this is fun. Like you get to be online and tell your story however you want to tell it. Have fun with it. So everybody knows that I'm snarky and that I have, that's just my personality. I'm not going to hide it from you. And so that's what I enjoy doing with social. James Milner says, he said, this was my comment about, are you a podcaster or are you a broker? So James, in response to your question, so my challenge with a lot of times with when a client or prospect comes and talks to me, I don't have a problem with podcasts. I love them actually from a content perspective, right? When we talk about the content waterfall, we're going to take this podcast and we're going to break it down into bits. We're going to create 20 different pieces of content from it. But when you talk to me that you want to grow your brokerage business, but you're only concerned about something happening over on the left side or outside of the box or whatever it is, there is a disconnect. There's a signal disconnect. Are you a broker or are you a podcaster? Because there's two very different things, right? Brokerage, we're trying to get in front of our ideal audience. Podcasts, yes, we want to get in front of our ideal audience. But if you're so concerned about doing that you forget to do the brokerage, you're going to be broke.
Put the broken broker.
Correct. 100%. So I hope that answers the question, James, because your first and foremost job is being a broker. It is not being a content creator. It is not being a podcaster. It's not even being a marketer. It is doing whatever it is that brings money into your bank account. Now, that being said, we aren't going to mention brokerage on the podcast. What podcast are you talking about, James? Are you starting a podcast? If you are, that's awesome. We'll have to talk about it. But okay, so that's my point to that. Yes. So James says we're using it primarily for content. 100%. I freaking love that. That's exactly what you should be thinking about your podcast. Your podcast, when you, oh my God, I can't believe I'm getting into podcasts about this. It's 7:22. We need to get off this thing. So podcasts, you're going to break it down into multi-pieces of content. It's also an SEO and AEO gold mine, right? Because of the fact that we have AI that's pulling up all this information. We know that AI is scouring YouTube, it's scouring Reddit, it's scouring LinkedIn for all of these content signals to pull that information in. So if you have a podcast on YouTube, going to get picked up by Google. If you have a podcast, you share that as a LinkedIn article on LinkedIn. You could also do it as a newsletter. If you are in brokerage that does not allow you to have your own personal website, start a freaking newsletter and get subscribers that way. There's a whole bunch of different things that you guys can do to stay top of mind and bring people into your funnel. But the main thing too is you need to focus on transacting. You need to bring that money in, or it doesn't matter all the different things that you do. If it's not bringing money into you, then it could be very well be a waste of time. So
it's an easy trap to fall into. Yeah.
100%.
You get, and the dopamine you get from, a big post or whatever. And you're like, oh, that was cool. That was great. It means nothing if you didn't, make any money off it.
It doesn't mean anything if a person didn't jump into your DMs and go, hey, tell me more about what it is that you do. Right. And I'm not talking about like a solicitation DM. I'm actually talking about somebody that's in your vertical that wants to transact with you, that wants to learn more, or you get an email or you get a phone call. That's where that stuff is important. Ian, we are coming up on time. We're actually way over, but it's been a great conversation. How can people get in contact with you and say, I don't know if you're giving out lessons on how to set up a Notion or whatever, but how can people get in contact with you so they can, and I'm not going to say it. I don't want to say pick your brain, but.
No, I'm happy to talk with anybody.
Awesome.
The best way would be through, my LinkedIn, my email, my cell phone number. I could, post that. It's everywhere. My LinkedIn is public. You can go to my LinkedIn. That's the best way. It's got all my stuff on there. Click the little contact information button up on the top, and it'll have my email and cell phone number and all that. I also have a link in my featured section that says, book a call with me, and that's open to whoever.
Love it. Love it. So you can get in contact with Ian on his LinkedIn, check out what he's doing, go through.
So gather around, hear the story told, how the smart
his LinkedIn profile. I think it's like one of the best ones that I've seen in a really, really long time. So, Ian, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate you. And everybody, we'll see you back here on Thursday. I believe we have, I forget who we have as a guest. I'm so sorry. All right, we'll talk to you guys later. Have a good one. Bye.